It's interesting. It's 20 years ago, I ran for Congress in Colorado. And one of the things I still remember was the night of the election, of which I lost. Hence, I'm here talking to you now.
And not
Uh,
in the Senate. Yeah.
and not, yeah, not sitting in Washington. Thank God. Dodged that
You're
bullet.
wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is James, joined as ever by my good friend Steve. And this is Every Best Picture, where we look at every winner of the Academy Award for Best Picture from Wings right up to the present day. This episode, we are talking 1949's All the King's Men.
Hey, but you know the drill. If you haven't already subscribed, it would be a great favor to us. If you did, join us on this great movie adventure we're taking. James?
Okay, All the King's Men. I had never seen this movie before.
Me
Uh,
neither.
I actually haven't seen the remake either, which is in a way more surprising because that came out in like 2006 or something with
Yeah.
Sean Penn, and
Yeah.
there's no good reason why I didn't see that movie. It just I'm not sure if it got a release here. Maybe that's the reason,
Mhm.
but that one seems to have fallen through the cracks. I probably will now go and dig that one up and check it out because I didn't know what this was really about. I kind of had an idea that it was about politics, but that
Mhm.
was about it. I actually really enjoyed this. I actually
Yes.
found it a really sort of fascinating tale of, the rise and fall, the corruption of power, of the sort of the little man who gets in over his head and is seduced by the dark side, essentially.
Mhm.
I'm a sucker for movies told from the point of view of a journalist as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and this had all of those things.
Yeah, I was somewhat familiar with it. I'd never seen it like yourself. I'd never seen the movie, but I was vaguely aware of the premise because my wife's from Louisiana, and this is a take on Huey P. Long, Louisiana governor from
Okay.
I think the 30s, something like that. And the parallels of the story of All the King's Men and Huey P. Long's life kind of go hand in hand all the way up to his assassination at the end. I remember looking into Huey P. Long a few years ago because I've been married to my wife for 32 years, and when I'm down there, I always have to cross the Huey P. Long Bridge. And I'm like,
Oh,
who is Huey P. Long? You have to look it up, you find out the story. And so yeah, it's basically Louisiana politics. They never mention Louisiana in the movie,
they don't.
unlike the novel. I've not read the novel, I've just been told. They generalize it much more in the film, so it can be just a unknown Southern politics. But it's interesting. It's 20 years ago, I ran for Congress in Colorado. And one of the things I still remember was the night of the election, of which I lost. Hence, I'm here talking to you now.
And not
Uh,
in the Senate. Yeah.
and not, yeah, not sitting in Washington. Thank God, dodged that bullet. Um, but that night, it's different things. The big screens in the hotel ballroom where, just the whole party's doing their thing. And you see Louisiana, and there was some kind of problem happening in Louisiana. Something was going on, some backroom shenanigans. And I remember some big wig, I was kind of over listening, going, Louisiana politics, always done a little bit different down there. And
Oh
it,
wow.
that kind of, essentially what we see in All the King's Men is a different form of politics.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I obviously my knowledge of American politics is pretty threadbare, and I
Yeah,
think I probably learn all there is to know from movies,
yeah.
essentially, or from watching, late night talk shows like the Colbert Report and late show. But what I like more about it is that in some ways, certainly superficially, certainly sort of narratively, the way that the story was told is almost reminiscent of Citizen Kane in some ways,
Yeah.
because that's sort of an investigation by a journalist of this sort of enigmatic political figure after the fact.
Mhm.
Whereas this one, you've got Jack Burden in real time, kind of observing sort of the evolution of this sort of menace to society, if you
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
And I like the way that how he is sort of drawn in. He's pulled into the inner circle under his wing, and runs risk of being corrupted himself. When he
Mhm.
when he loses his or he quits because the paper and the owners of the paper even kind of get influenced, and they're like, we can't run stories about Willie Stark anymore because they're owned by the competitor or whatever,
Yeah.
by the other side. He realizes, okay, well, what am I going to do? And then the fact that he is then recruited and that he is then brought in and is sort of remolded as sort of a researcher digging up dirt on his rivals, and then almost like a
Hmm.
spin doctor by the end, isn't he? He's kind of
Yeah.
helping him with his message. All of that I just thought was fascinating, even though
Yeah.
I kind of had no idea where it was going, and I didn't really know anything about him or Huey P. Long or anything like that
Yeah.
beforehand.
Well, it really is a cautionary tale. And watching it, I'm a little bit depressed because, rule of liberal democracies that are run by rule of law are constantly having to rub up against 6,000 years of human authoritarian government. I mean, the way we basically have done government by and large, it's been authoritarian. You've got a king with absolute power,
Mm,
and things are not based on merit. It's based on loyalty. And authoritarians always, you could see this with the Willie Stark character, what he values more than anybody, whether it's a Donald Trump or a Willie Stark, is I'm going to be this big, larger than life character that draw all men unto me. And your one credential that keeps you in that inner circle is
mm,
loyalty. You're either inside the circle or you're outside the circle. It has little to do with your competence or your integrity or your values, your rule of law or democracy. Those are all secondary considerations to loyalty. So as I'm watching this movie play out, it's hard not to watch echoes of things we've overcome in America, in the American context, and what we seem to be slipping back towards. Because at the end of the film, when Willie Stark is telling, their his supporters, get out there and start rioting a bit and causing a bit of problem, and we're gonna show them they can't indict me. And suddenly I'm getting visions of January 6th,
absolutely.
and you're just I'm thinking this movie is like 75 years old, and yet it is so relevant for 2024, particularly in America right now. And I'd say like Western Europe in general, as this rise of populism once again manifests itself. Yeah, some
Yeah,
of
no, I
some of
was.
the yeah,
Oh,
some of
sorry,
the
go on.
imagery is yeah, some of the it's not metaphor anymore. I'm watching it again. It's happening. It is, in the words of Twin Peaks, it is happening again.
Yeah, no, you do wonder whether Donald Trump watched this or not, or rather how many times he watched it, because that was always the great well, there's so many elements of it mirror what we've witnessed with him since he decided to run. I mean, the whole conversation with James Comey, head of the
Mhm.
FBI, over loyalty. And he said,
Yes.
saying to him, he's like, "What I need from you is loyalty," and he was like, "I can't give you loyalty.
Hmm.
My loyalty is to the country, not to
Yeah.
you," and that was all that he was interested in.
And this is
How it
what
is,
happened to Michael or Pence with
yeah,
what's his first name? Why can't I think of his
Mike,
Mike Pence?
yeah,
Mike Pence is, and I just recently had a friend from high school just rant or just give me a rant about Pence as he's part of the problem. And I'm thinking, this is it. Once in an authoritarian structure, even the guy that was big on the like he was the number two man, but he can
mm.
quickly be ostracized once he puts loyalty to the country over loyalty to the man. But
I mean, it's
we've just seen it.
fascinating. You look at it right now. Right now, we're at a point where, Trump is 6 months away from the election and hasn't picked a VP yet.
Yeah,
And people are not. There's no one of quality, yeah, queuing up to join him, and he's treating it like it's The Apprentice again or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
He's saying like, okay, who wants it? Who wants it? And he's almost like sort of taking the piss out of these potential candidates. I was like, this should be a the strongest team that a duo that you've been working on, a relationship that you've been building for ages, where you are stronger together and all the rest of it. And he's like sort of dangling around like, I mean, arguably, I mean, well, not arguably, definitely, he doesn't want a VP.
No, no, no.
He does not want anybody else on that ticket. But sorry, you
Yeah,
need one, and so he's doing it the only way he knows how, which is as a competition where you're pitting everybody against one another, and the winner will be the one who kisses his ring, essentially.
yeah.
And it's going to be absolutely baffling. It will be some complete random that we've never heard of, who he will manipulate an eclipse and sideline. Should he win, it will be immediately sidelined. Will have no power whatsoever, and
Yeah,
it's going to be such a bizarre. bizarre situation. But the number of parallels throughout here, the way that Stark sort of shifts gears, and he's running on policy, 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 and not getting anywhere. He's like, oh, I'm going to sort your funding out, your taxing out, and all of this out. And they're like, no, 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 just appeal to the common man is what you
Yeah.
need to do. And so he turns around and goes, oh yeah, I'm a hit who's been fooled by the system just the way you have, and that's what wins the people over. In the same way,
Yeah.
Trump, tries to appeal to the common man while having absolutely no interest, nothing in common with them, and is only looking to exploit them for his own personal gain. And it
Yeah.
goes on and on and on throughout. And it was kind of scary. I mean, if I thought Trump sat down and watched films for 1 minute,
Yeah.
my thought would immediately be, oh, well, he's definitely seen this film,
Yeah. Yeah.
and is drawing from it. But I'm not convinced that he has the mental capacity to sit down and pay attention to something for 2 hours, let alone remember it afterwards.
Yeah, no, I agree. What do you think of the cast? We've got John Ireland as Jack Burton. We got Drew as Ann Stanton. John Derek plays
Right,
the young son. I think it was Mercedes McCambridge's
Mercedes
like
McCambridge.
I was just gonna say I think it was her first role or first major role or something like that.
Quite possibly. I mean, I've got to be honest. I mean, I am aware of her, but I don't think, certainly by name, I'm really overly familiar with much of the cast. I knew who Broderick Crawford was,
Hmm.
but this was the main role that I knew him from. I mean, not to be completely pretentious, but the other big film that I know him from was an Italian movie that he did with Fellini, I think, called Il Badoni or something, and it's about con artists. It's about Italian con artists who pass themselves off as priests, and it might even have been remade as We're No Angels, the Robert De Niro Sean Penn movie.
Hmm.
It might have been the origin for that. But that was, I think, the only other thing I really kind of knew him from. Clearly, he's done a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
he was a big character actor, often playing like the heavy or whomever beforehand, and so I think this was a bit of a sort of a break from the norm for him.
But he plays that heavy brawler feel. He has weight to him.
Oh,
Like
sure.
if they had played somebody slick, I mean, he really is Trumpian. There's a bulk to him. There's a sleaziness to him. Like even when he's being very suave or attempting to be suave, there's such a slickness to it that yeah, he plays that character brilliantly.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Another of the uncanny ways in which this film, mirrors or predicts, foreshadows the
Yeah.
coming of Trump. I did enjoy the cast. I did like John Ireland. I thought he was a great figure. I mean, one of the scenes, I suppose it's not really related to the cast so much, but one of the scenes that I really remember is when it's Stark's son gets in that drink
Yeah.
driving kind of accident,
Yes.
and he's
John
driving
Derek.
it. He's just driving like mad, and his girlfriend is beside him, and she's like swinging on the bottle, going, "Go faster, Johnny, Tommy, or whatever, go fast!" And it was like something out of Reefer Madness or something like that. It
Yeah.
was the most sort of ridiculous, unrealistic depiction of like crazy teens up to no good. That movie, that sort of sequence really sort of stuck with me. It made me laugh quite a bit. But
Well,
yeah,
Rebel Without a Cause had not come out yet.
it had not. That was about
Hollywood was still pretty stereo. They were very ignorant of teen behavior. It was Rebel
well,
Without a Cause that kind of opened that door.
yeah, I mean, I suppose one could argue in some ways, society was still ignorant of teen behavior. There wasn't,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
of the war and what have you, there wasn't much teen behavior around.
There was no
They were
teen culture. It wasn't a
no,
culture of teens. Yeah.
they were either in the military or put to work.
Yeah.
It was at a very young age, and it was just starting to emerge now. I think so. At the end of the 40s, beginning of the 50s, we'll see a lot more impact of it during the 50s, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, by and large, yeah, enjoyed the cast very, very much.
Well, James, how did all the president I want to say all the president's men, all the king's men do at the 22nd Academy Awards?
It did not too bad. I mean, the two big awards that it won were Best Picture, of course. That is why we are talking about it
Mm.
today, and Best Actor. Broderick Crawford won Best Actor for his role. It also won Best Supporting Actress for Mercedes McCambridge, which is a pretty good debut, if that indeed was her debut.
Yeah.
Looking at what else it was up against that year, You have got Battleground, a film I'm not overly familiar with, it has to be said, by
Yeah.
William Wellman, obviously great filmmaker William Wellman, but
Hmm.
the Heiress, that's a great movie. A Letter to Three Wives by Joseph Mankiewicz. Now he won Best Director. He beat out Robert Rosen to win Best
Hmm.
Director. And I've seen that movie. It's basically a sort of, on the one hand, a fairly innocuous sort of mid-afternoon women's matinee kind of a
Hmm.
movie, but it's also great. It was
Okay.
something that was stuck in front of me that I'd never heard of, and I put it on. And by the end, I was just like, I love this movie. This movie's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good. If you get the chance to see it, do. And then 12 O'Clock High, which is that's a war movie, but yeah, about pilots for sure, with
Okay.
Gregory Peck in it. So I mean, nothing there. I mean, The Heiress, I think, has stood the test of time. I think that's a movie that's still around.
Hmm.
The Olivia de
Everything
Havilland
else
film.
kind of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it was one of those years that was pretty solid,
Hmm.
but at the same time, dare I say, unexceptional a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
It was just one of those quieter years that comes across every now and again.
So, how would we say about All the King's Men? Has it stood the test of time? Does it deserve its place in Oscar history?
Well, I mean, does it deserve its place in Oscar history? I think is a little tougher because, as I
Mhm.
said, I mean, I think it was a quiet year. Nothing seems to have been cheated out of its win,
Right.
but at the same time, even now, this doesn't really leap off the page as best picture material in the
Right.
same way that some other winners do. Yeah, it's a great movie. Does it stand the test of time? Absolutely. I mean, I think all we've talked about is just
Yeah.
how relevant, how prescient it is. So to an uncanny, terrifying degree. So that's, I think, where I'm going to land. It's absolutely stood the test of time. But does it deserve its place in Oscar history? I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like it's not a highlight of Oscar history. I'll
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, the fact that I haven't seen it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't deserve its place in Oscar history, but it is an indicator. And
Mm.
my not having seen it, um, and now I totally agree. I don't really have anything to add. I would say the same thing. Totally relevant for today. I totally enjoyed this film, wonderfully made, but does it have that gravitas of Oscar, lore and just
Pomp and
what?
ceremony or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say no.
No,
So
I mean it's not a masterpiece of Hollywood history that, still shines so brightly all this time later or anything like that.
right,
I mean, I
right,
think it says it all that ultimately I don't think we've either of us have got much to say about it, really.
yeah,
I
no, that's
think
true. Yeah,
beyond the fact that we're like, holy shit, it's basically Trump the movie,
yeah,
70,
yeah,
70 years early. I think both of us are kind of just like, yeah, it's good, whatever,
yeah. It's
and
good.
that's
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. There's not a whole lot to dissect or to interpret or have. Oh, this is a metaphor for this, or
Sure.
it's pretty straightforward. It's down the middle of the fairway, and it's a great morality tale, cautionary tale.
Absolutely. There's something
Yeah.
almost sort of Shakespearean about it. About
Yes.
how
Yeah.
power corrupts absolutely, and the weight of the
Yeah.
king is heavy on
Yeah.
upon his head and all that kind of stuff. It's not unlike, I suppose, what Macbeth or Lear or one of those great ones, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's not as good as either of those.
Well, that's what James and I think about All the King's Men. But what do you think? We'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, suggestions in the box below. James?
Yeah, I mean, if there is some great element to it, some great aspect to it that we have completely overlooked, please do let us know. If you love this movie or that you see something important in it beyond what we have spoken about, love to hear about it
Yeah.
because I think as Steve and I have said, we both liked it, but that's about it, and
Yeah.
that's about where
Yeah.
we are. So please jump in, weigh in, point us in some direction, let us know what we've overlooked, and I'd love to continue a conversation.
Till next episode.
You ought to be in
Bye bye.
pictures. You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be.